have the mitochondria. So the mitochondria are really important. On the left, you can see, hi to whoever just joined. On the left, we can see some diagrams of mitochondria. So obviously, as previously mentioned, you can definitely, if drawing yourself, draw them with this kind of S-shaped squiggle. And that works perfectly. And just be familiar of what they look like so that you can actually recognize them on a diagram of your that you may be given in the exam. So we've got kind of a more detailed example down here at the bottom, which we can see smaller scale up here, kind of resembling this squiggle shape that I've drawn down below. So what actually are the mitochondria? So these organelles contain the enzymes that we use for respiration. And obviously we know how important respiration is. It is essential for living organisms. So this is where most energy is released in respiration. So it's really all kind of centered predominantly in the mitochondria, not completely, but predominantly. And a typical phrase that you may have heard before is the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Now, I think you can definitely one-up your answer by, instead of that, you can definitely say, you know, these organelles contain the enzymes that we use for respiration. This is where the majority of the energy is released in respiration. But if not, when in doubt, the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. So yeah, just give you a second to jot down any notes you may have. Just make a note of the structure for if you're drawing your own. Cool, so next up we have ribosomes. So ribosomes are tiny structures where protein synthesis occurs. So that's really important. So ribosomes are where protein synthesis occurs. So protein synthesis, if you haven't guessed it, is the process in which proteins are made or synthesized. So if I said to you, for example, I know I wouldn't, but if I said we're going to synthesize a cake, that means we're going to make a cake. Doesn't really make sense. But the point here is protein synthesis means making proteins. So a more detailed answer, if you want to really kind of hit those high level marks, you can say, when it says, what is the function of a ribosome? So a ribosome's function is protein synthesis, as it joins amino acids together in a specific order. So that's really what protein synthesis is. So whilst this is another topic that I don't want to cover very deep in today's lesson, it's important to remember that protein synthesis involves joining amino acids together to form a polypeptide chain. So that's joining amino acids together to form a polypeptide chain, which can then be used to create a protein. So these ribosomes are the actual things that are responsible for doing that. They hold the amino acids in place during this process. So definitely very important. On a diagram, as we already mentioned, a lot of the time you can present your ribosomes as small dots. They'll definitely be clustered together and should be quite easy to spot on a diagram. But just to give you a bit of insight, this is what they look like close up. So you can see from this picture how come they are presented as dots, obviously on the diagram. Some very small kind of circular shaped organelles.